Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Thursday, October 31st, 2024, and you're listening to Alex's News. The high in Riverside today will reach 72.6 degrees, with a low of 53.4, making for a pleasant autumn day. Coming up on Alex's News, we'll explore why the 2024 U.S. election is causing tension in Iran. We'll also delve into the ongoing debate surrounding rent control in California. Plus, we'll look at how LIDAR technology is transforming the field of Mayan archaeology, uncovering new insights into this ancient civilization. Stay tuned for these stories and more on Alex's News. We begin our top stories today with a look at Iran's growing concerns over the upcoming U.S. presidential election. Joining us now with more details is our foreign affairs correspondent, Ethan. Ethan, what can you tell us about Iran's perspective on this election?
Thank you, Grace. Iran is indeed watching the 2024 U.S. presidential election with significant apprehension. According to reporting from ABC News, this election coincides with the 45th anniversary of the 1979 U.S. Embassy hostage crisis, which adds an extra layer of tension to an already complex relationship between the two nations.
That's quite a historical backdrop. What are the main factors contributing to Iran's wariness?
There are several key issues at play here, Grace. First, Iran's involvement in regional conflicts, particularly its support for groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, has put it at odds with UN's interests. Recent Israeli strikes on Iran have only escalated tensions in the region. Additionally, Iran's economy is struggling under the weight of international sanctions related to its nuclear program. As Asharq al-Awsat reports, the Iranian rial is near record lows against the dollar, causing significant economic hardship for the Iranian people.
It sounds like there are both external and internal pressures. Are there any domestic issues adding to the tension?
Absolutely. Iran is still grappling with the aftermath of mass demonstrations that erupted following the death of Mahsa Amini in 2022. There's ongoing public defiance of the mandatory hijab law, which has created a volatile social atmosphere. It's worth noting that Iran has also seen some political shifts recently. Following the unexpected death of President Ibrahim Raisi, Iran elected reformist President Masoud Pezeshkian, who's aiming to ease Western sanctions through negotiations.
Interesting. How are Iranians viewing the U.S. presidential candidates?
Well, Grace, both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump have expressed hardline views on Iran. Trump's past actions, including withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal and ordering the drone strike that killed General Qasem Soleimani, have particularly heightened fears among Iranians. Public opinion in Iran is divided on which candidate might be better for their country. Some prefer Harris, believing she might be less inclined towards war, while others think Trump's deal-making abilities could lead to quicker resolutions.
There have been concerns about election interference in the past. Is there any evidence of that this time around?
Yes, there is. According to information provided by the Perplexity API, there's evidence of Iranian attempts to interfere in the 2024 U.S. election through cyber operations. These efforts appear more sophisticated than in previous election cycles, involving the use of artificial intelligence to create fake news articles and targeted hacking operations on campaign officials.
That's concerning. How have U.S. sanctions affected Iran's economy in recent years?
The impact has been severe, Grace. U.S. sanctions between 2020 and 2024 have led to high inflation in Iran, reaching 47% in 2023. They've also reduced oil exports and isolated Iran from the global financial system. These economic pressures are a significant factor in Iran's approach to the upcoming U.S. election.
Looking ahead, what do analysts predict for future U.S.-Iran relations?
Analysts predict that regardless of the U.S. election outcome, future U.S.-Iran talks will be challenging. It's important to note that the final decision on any negotiations rests with Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The path forward remains uncertain and will likely depend on the results of the election, which is now just 5 days away.
Thank you, Ethan, for that comprehensive overview of Iran's perspective on the upcoming U.S. election. We appreciate your insights.
You're welcome, Grace. It's a complex situation that we'll continue to monitor closely.
We turn now to a contentious issue on California's 2024 ballot. Proposition 33, which would allow local governments to impose rent control, has sparked intense debate. Joining us to discuss this is our political reporter, Chloe. Chloe, can you give us an overview of the situation?
Certainly, Grace. According to reporting from Cal Matters, Proposition 33 has received unanimous opposition from major California newspaper editorial boards, including the Los Angeles Times, San Francisco Chronicle, and Sacramento Bee. This proposition would give local governments the power to implement rent control measures, a move that's highly controversial.
Why is this proposition generating so much opposition?
Well, Grace, opponents argue that rent control could actually worsen California's housing crisis. They claim it might discourage investment in new housing and reduce the overall supply of rental properties. Economists from prestigious institutions like Stanford and UC Berkeley suggest it could have negative impacts on California's already strained housing situation.
That's interesting, Chloe. But surely there must be some support for this proposition. Who's in favor of it?
You're right, Grace. Proponents of Proposition 33 argue that rent control is necessary to address California's high cost of living. They point out that over half of California residents are rent-burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on housing. Organizations like the AIDS Healthcare Foundation and California Nurses Association support the measure, believing it could help keep people housed and stabilize communities.
It sounds like a complex issue. Are there any specific concerns about how rent control might affect property owners?
Yes, critics have raised concerns about potential negative impacts on property values and homeowners. They also point out that the proposition doesn't include specific protections for vulnerable groups. It's worth noting that the effectiveness of rent control policies in improving long-term housing affordability is heavily debated among experts.
Have other places tried similar rent control measures? What have been the results?
That's a great question, Grace. New York, for example, implemented reforms through the Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act of 2019. These reforms attempted to balance tenant protections with incentives for housing development. They included limitations on rent increases, changes to capital improvement allowances, and expanded tenant protections against harassment and eviction. However, the long-term effects of these measures are still being evaluated.
So, Chloe, what do experts suggest as alternatives to rent control for addressing the housing affordability crisis?
Many experts argue for a multifaceted approach, Grace. This could include increasing housing supply by reducing regulatory barriers, providing direct financial assistance to needy renters, and implementing targeted programs to subsidize the construction or rehabilitation of affordable housing. The goal is to address the root causes of the housing crisis rather than just treating the symptoms.
It's clear this is a complex issue with no easy solutions. Thank you, Chloe, for breaking down this important ballot measure for us.
You're welcome, Grace. It's certainly a debate that will continue as we approach the election, now just 5 days away.
Indeed it is. Thanks again, Chloe, for your insights on this crucial issue. Here are some other headlines. A unique celebration is underway in Nepal as the annual Kukur Puja festival honors dogs with garlands and treats. This event, part of the broader Tihar festival, sees both pet and stray dogs adorned with flower necklaces and red vermilion marks on their foreheads. In an unusual weather event, snow fell on Hawaii's tallest mountain, Mauna Kea, on October 31, 2024. The brief snowfall transformed the mountaintop into a temporary winter wonderland, a rare occurrence in the typically tropical state. The 2024 World Series concluded with a dramatic twist as the Los Angeles Dodgers rallied from a 5-run deficit to defeat the New York Yankees 7-6 in Game 5. The Yankees suffered a defensive collapse, allowing the Dodgers to mount a comeback and clinch the championship. Wellington, New Zealand, has bid farewell to its controversial giant hand sculpture named Kwasi. The 16-foot-tall artwork, featuring a human face, had become a beloved landmark for many. Despite its initially unsettling appearance, the Washington Post faced significant backlash after announcing it would not endorse a candidate in the 2024 presidential election. This decision led to over 250,000 subscription cancellations and several staff resignations. Critics, including renowned journalists and public figures, expressed disappointment in the break from the paper's 50-year tradition of endorsements. We turn now to a fascinating archaeological discovery in Mexico. Our reporter Ethan has the details on this ancient Mayan city that's been unearthed. Ethan, what can you tell us about this remarkable find?
Thanks, Grace. Archaeologists have made an extraordinary discovery in southern Mexico, uncovering what appears to be an ancient Mayan city they've named Valeriana. This discovery was made possible through the use of advanced laser sensing technology known as LIDAR.
LIDAR? Can you explain what that is for our viewers, Ethan?
Certainly, Grace. LIDAR stands for light detection and ranging. It's a remote sensing method that uses laser pulses to create detailed 3D maps of the Earth's surface, even penetrating dense vegetation. In this case, archaeologists revisited a 2013 LIDAR survey that was originally conducted to measure deforestation.
That's fascinating. So what did they find when they re-examined this data?
Well, Grace, they uncovered a massive ancient city. According to the journal Antiquity, Valeriana covers an area of about 47 square miles or 16.6 square kilometers. The city is estimated to have had around 6,479 structures, suggesting it was as densely populated as the well-known pre-Hispanic metropolis of Calakmul.
That's an impressive size. What kind of structures did they find in Valeriana?
The city boasts an array of impressive structures, Grace. There are two principal centers with substantial buildings, situated about 2 kilometers apart. These are connected by dense housing and causeways. The site includes pyramids, sports arenas, including a court for the ancient Mayan ball game, and even amphitheaters. All of these features point to a major urban center with a high level of cultural and architectural sophistication.
It sounds like quite a bustling city. Do we know how many people might have lived there?
Yes, researchers estimate that during its peak, from 750 to 850 AD, Valeriana housed between 30,000 to 50,000 residents. That's a substantial population, Grace, comparable to or even surpassing the current population of the area. They also found evidence of a reservoir, indicating advanced water management practices.
That's remarkable, Ethan. How does this discovery change our understanding of ancient Mayan civilization?
This find challenges the Western perspective that tropical regions were areas where civilizations declined. Instead, it highlights the complexity and richness of cultures in these regions. It supports the notion that the Maya lived in intricate cities rather than isolated villages. Moreover, it suggests that much of the space between known Maya sites may have been heavily populated in the past.
Do we know what happened to this city? Why was it abandoned?
The exact reasons for the city's decline are uncertain, Grace, but climate change is believed to have played a pivotal role. High population density and the inability to cope with drought conditions may have contributed to the collapse of the Maya civilization after 800 AD. Additionally, warfare and the Spanish conquest in the 16th century further contributed to the decline of Maya city-states.
It's amazing that such a large city could remain hidden for so long. How was it finally discovered?
That's one of the most intriguing aspects of this discovery, Grace. The site is located just a 15-minute hike from a major road near Expugil, where a predominantly Maya population resides today. Despite its proximity to modern settlements, the site had remained undiscovered until now. This really underscores the transformative impact of LIDAR technology in uncovering lost civilizations in densely vegetated areas.
Incredible. Thank you, Ethan, for bringing us this fascinating story about the discovery of Valeriana.
You're welcome, Grace. It's truly an exciting time for archaeology, and who knows what other ancient cities might be waiting to be discovered.
Indeed. Thanks again, Ethan, and that concludes our third and final story for today, October 31st, 2024. Stay tuned for more news after the break. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 3.5, the Perplexity API, and the Google Cloud Text-to-Speech API. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.